Now we're going to talk about the concepts of increasing, decreasing, and constant functions when it comes to looking at the graph. First off, realize that increasing is almost like you are going uphill from left to right. Decreasing is like you're walking downhill from left to right. And constant is like you're walking on level, solid ground. Increasing rises from left to right, decreases falls from left to right, and constant stays level when looking at the graph from left to right. Just remember, always read from left to right. Now here's an example of an algebra problem that gives you the graph. You have to determine the intervals on which this function may be increasing, decreasing, or constant. What I do is I imagine that I'm this little ant or this little doodle bug starting on the left and I'm walking on this graph. It feels like I'm walking uphill until I get right here, and that's because I'm increasing. So the left-hand side of this graph is increasing. However, when I reach the peak at the top and I continue walking, I'm the little doodle bug that's walking downhill now. So that is decreasing. There is no portion of this graph at all that is constant level ground. So there would be no constant intervals. There's one increasing interval, and we say that we are increasing from x equals negative infinity to x equals 0. You always give the intervals in terms of the x value, not the y value, which is the height. So give intervals in the x value. Now, to write this correctly, we would say increasing from open parenthesis negative infinity comma 0. That means we were increasing over here for all these negative values all the way up to the center, which is equal to 0. Then we would be decreasing or going downhill from that point on top all the way down. Well, notice the x values. That point on top is x is 0. So we're decreasing from 0 comma to infinity. Now this may seem strange because you're going downhill, but as you go downhill, notice every step downward puts you farther to the right on the positive x values. So we actually use positive infinity. Here's another example. Again, just imagine that you're some little doodle bug that's going to walk on top of this graph. And if you start on the left-hand side, it feels like you are going downhill until you get to this point. Well, we say that that downhill motion is decreasing. So we would be decreasing from negative infinity comma negative 2. Now remember, these values are always in terms of the x. So the point at which the bottom point at which you had decreased to corresponded to x equals negative 2. And you had started on the left-hand side. Notice these are all negative values and would have gone out to negative infinity. As you're walking along this graph, once you pass that point at which you no longer go downhill, it feels like you're walking on solid, level, straight ground. No incline at all. This is what we call constant. And this would be constant from negative 2, comma, positive infinity. Because notice all the constant values continue to march us on out to the positive x values all the way to infinity. Hope this helped.